Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are some of the most controversial Pokémon games to date. Many people love them, but many also have equally valid concerns about them as well. This video is a long time coming. To be honest, I wanted to make it before Pokemon Legends ZA came out, but things got away from me, and then the game came out, and I really wanted to just focus on that. But no time's like the present. I just wanted to give my thoughts on Generation 9 maybe as a whole, but specifically Scarlet and Violet, where it started, where it came, and where it went. To be honest, this isn't a celebration, nor is it an indictment of GameFreak on their work of Scarlet and Violet. I just ultimately wanted to give my thoughts on how everything went from 2022 up through, I guess, 2025. Because despite how rough of a launch Scarlet and Violet had in 2022, it's not like they haven't made any improvements on it, and I think that's worth talking about. I think a lot of people did sort of expect Generation 9 to come around that time, but for me, Legends Arceus had literally just come out, and I wasn't ready for a brand new game to take all the focus away. That being said, they announced it, and the first trailer was rough looking. And honestly, I said that out of the gate. I was excited to play a brand new Pokemon game because I love Pokemon, but what they were showing was just not up to snuff. Especially for the second generation on the Switch, it should look really good. And you can see it in my reaction. I don't know how to feel about any of this. Okay, 2023. Oh, no, not in 2022. Pokemon, what are you doing? I was not pleased about the 2022 release, and I'm still not pleased. Since then, a lot of information has come out, and it clarifies a ton about how game development works for GameFreak. And while I'm sure that there are plenty of people that don't care, it does give a lot of context for people who are willing to understand and listen. Throughout 2022, I had the optimism that, hey, maybe it'll look better as the trailers go on, and this was just an older build, and things will change. And it did in some very small ways, but not enough. And by the time of the release, it was clear that the game was severely undercooked. The game was crashing, people were falling through the floors of the ground, and mountains were disappearing, textures weren't loading incorrectly, and the game was just buggy as all get out. But beyond all the problems that the games have, I learned to love them. They had a compelling story with interesting characters, the Pokemon were well designed, and the gameplay was generally really fun. It didn't bring over everything I would have liked from Legends Arceus, but it did a really good job of bringing over what it did. I liked the world of Paldea, and I enjoyed exploring and learning more about the culture that they had built. And I can tell you, by the time I got to the end of the story, I felt emotionally fulfilled. The ending of Scarlet and Violet is easily the most emotionally charged of really any game that has come before it. Sure, there's been sad stories here and there, family drama, people losing those that they care about off screen, but outside of the general drama of fighting an evil team and winning the Pokemon League, I don't think anything's really come close to a child learning that their parent is dead and having to deal with that grief. And even more so, having people around them that can really help them get through such a hard time. Not to mention, I'm gonna be real, I thought the Ed Sheeran song was really good, and I thought that they did an expert job of placing it at the end of the game. We then jump forward to 2023, and while they have added some fixes to the game to make it a little more stable, it still doesn't look great. The performance is still lacking, the textures still do that weird sliding thing and pop in and out, but it's become somewhat playable. Then we get the DLC, and to be perfectly honest, it was more of the same goodness. It didn't add anything extra to break the game, so that's good, but it did add a lot of really good and interesting things. 2 brand new areas, brand new Pokemon, new evolutions, and new forms. And on top of that, they continued the trend of having interesting characters with robust story arcs that made you feel for them and made you invested in the story that they were telling. And not for nothing, I ended up using basically 4 different teams in this game. I've never used that many Pokemon. It was almost an entire box. It felt special to me that I was able to build this large family of Pokemon in a way that I've never really been able to do in other games that have a more streamlined story. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were not perfect games by any stretch of imagination, but they did offer something. By the time that Blueberry Academy came out, the games were basically finished, outside of updates here and there and those events for the raids. This being said, one thing was nagging. The content was good, but the performance was still bad. Frame rates dropped, gameplay hindered by overall performance. It was just not good. That's when the Switch 2 comes into play. Suddenly, Scarlet and Violet got a second chance. Sure, the textures were going to be about the same, they weren't going to change anything major like that, but once you loaded it up on the Switch 2, it was almost like playing a brand new game. It was clear that Game Freak needed not only more power and stability in the console itself, but also just more time to optimize it. I've said in the past that if they had at least one more fully uninterrupted year of development, I don't think that the launch would have been quite as disastrous as it was in 2022. It would have been better anyways. Playing on the Switch 2 is genuinely a treat. You can go to places like Casseroya Lake or Lag Tree Thicket as they call it, now without having to worry about frame rates dropping to single digits almost. My biggest takeaway from Scarlet and Violet is you can see the difference between vision for what a game could be and the unfortunate realities of what can be achieved under certain pressures. Due to some leaks that have come out over the last couple of years, some very important information has been made public that I think adds a lot of context that is much needed to the public. Pokémon is the highest grossing franchise in the entire world, even more than Disney. So that leaves a lot of people wondering, why have the games suffered so much? This new information gave a lot of context to that. Game Freak is a small company overall. Not only that, but a constricting timeline as well as a very low budget, all things considered, really does not make it easy for them to make any games. In the span of 4 years, basically a generation, they have to make upwards to 2, maybe even 3 games. Meanwhile, other franchises will spend twice that making just 1 game. And those studios will often have much higher budgets. That's not to say Game Freak can't do anything on their own to make the process better, but it's certainly obvious that they're working with a handicap. I just hope that Nintendo takes this to heart and not only gives them the time and resources that they need, but maybe even some help as well. Generation 9 is one of my favorite generations. I love Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, and Legends ZA has been great. But seeing the vision that Game Freak has for the series, it makes me sad that we haven't had a game where I can just say, wow, this looks great. Period. I'm tired of playing Pokemon games where I can say, wow, this is so much fun, but ... or wow, this game is great. I just wish ... This all being said, I don't think that this is the end all be all. It's clear that the developers do genuinely care about their games. I think when fans see games that look rough, they think that there's laziness going on or that the developers don't care. But to me, that's always felt silly. To think that somebody making something from nothing would feel nothing for their creation is a little obtuse to me. It shows a lack of understanding and a lack of willingness to let people grow and learn from their mistakes. I guess what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, after everything that's been said and done, I have hope. We're at the dawn of a new era, with a new generation likely being announced very soon. With Pokémon Day 2026 coming up in just about a month, and it being the 30th anniversary of Pokémon, I have no doubt that Game Freak, Nintendo, and the Pokémon Company at large have big plans for us. My hope is that whatever they show off is rewarding for fans who have been waiting for that one game that they can just say, wow, this looks great. Thank you for watching. I know that I don't really upload on this channel anymore outside of the occasional reaction to something, but I wanted to get my thoughts out before we head into a new generation with new opportunities and new things to feel happy about. Let me know what you guys thought about Generation 9, specifically Scarlet and Violet. I know I've been enjoying Legends ZA. Maybe I'll make a video at some point about that, but until then, I'll see you in Pokemon Day. Bye-bye.